One of the things we've really been trying to figure out is what is the real rate of coronavirus infection? Because the official numbers only tell us the number of people that have actually had a test and tested positive for the disease. But of course, there's a whole bunch of people who have or have had coronavirus without being tested, many of whom have already recovered. And one of the ways you can test for the real rate is to do an antibody test. The antibodies produced by the body in the process of or after finishing the process of fighting the virus. But there have been antibody tests that have not been accurate. So that has not been particularly useful. There have also been studies that have tested sewage. And depending on which test you look at, we've heard that the real infection rate could be as small as 2 times the official rate or as large as 250 times the official rate. Now, I've said before, only 2 times the official rate sounds low to me. 250 times the official rate sounds too high to me. If it were 250 times the official rate, we'd be talking about roughly 200 million Americans with coronavirus, and that does not seem to pass the sniff test, although if it were true, we would potentially be close to herd immunity, but it doesn't pass the sniff test. So in looking at different data, my thought has been the real number of infections is somewhere between 4 and 30 times the official number, which is still a very big range. We have a new study from Los Angeles County that is looking at exactly this question. What is the real rate of infection? They went and they gave antibody tests to a random sample of 863 adults, and they found that somewhere between 220,000 and 440,000 people in Los Angeles County have already been infected. Now, when you compare those numbers to the official case number of just under 14,000 at the time that the study was done, this study implies that the real infection number is somewhere between 15 and 30 times the official case number. Now, if we apply that to the entire United States, it would suggest between 12 and 24 million people have or have had coronavirus so far, or really have had, because you don't have antibodies when you're actively infected. Now, as always, there's a bunch of caveats here. One is no one study is likely to be the one. Infection rates are realistically different in different parts of the country. And importantly, even if this is correct, we would be nowhere near herd immunity at this point in time. The good news, if the real rate of infection is 15 to 30 times the official rate, is it implies a far lower fatality rate than we think, because a much smaller portion of people are dying. If you have 1,000 deaths out of 10,000 infections, that's much more serious than if you have 1,000 deaths out of 100,000 infections. Now, the bad news of the real rate being 15 to 30 times the official rate is that it means the virus spreads way more easily than we thought, and we are nowhere near having a testing system that can actually identify a large portion of the cases. If you can't identify cases, you can't contact trace, you can't tell people who might have been exposed that they need to quarantine. But as always, any one study can be way off. We've learned that some antibody tests are just very inaccurate, fundamentally, technically speaking. I believe some of those tests may have been used in this study. The other thing to keep in mind is the more you test, the closer you are to the real infection rate. So I want to be really clear about this. We can't just take the nationwide number and multiply it by 15 to 30 based on the LA County results. Why not? I'll give you an example. New York is testing way more than California. New York has tested 33,000 people for every million in the population, whereas California has only tested 7,000 people for every million in the population. Since California has not been testing as much as New York, we would imagine that the real infection rate in California is many times higher than the real infection rate in New York, because New York has tested more people. That's what we know right now. Someday we'll have a good antibody test we can rely on. We'll figure out what the real penetrance of the disease has been across the country. We're not there yet. And the reality that we have right now is we are certainly undercounting cases. We just don't know Exactly by how much? One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pakman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. Takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be, because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft. And it's free. There's no catch whatsoever. But if you want, Privacy also offers a $10 a month plan that gives you 1% cash back and lets you create 36 credit cards a month, and a $25 a month plan tailored more for small businesses where you can create 60 card numbers a month and much more. But definitely go ahead and at least get started with the free plan. You'll protect your financial info. Companies can't charge you unexpectedly. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pakman.